Once, our beloved 11th Imam, Hassan al-Askari, peace be upon him, he was asked, why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated upon us fasting every single year? He responded, لِيَذُوقَ الْغَنِي مَسَّ الْجُوعِ. Part of the reason why Allah Azza wa Jal has obligated upon us this yearly ritual of fasting, 30 nights, 29 nights, the month of Shahr Ramadan, is so that those who are more privileged amongst us may feel for those who are less privileged amongst us. This is part of the philosophy and part of the wisdom behind why Allah mandates fasting for us every single year. According to one study done by the University of Alabama, they brought in over 33 participants and they hooked them up to an EEG, which is some type of, they put some sensors so that they can scan their brain activity. They placed these individuals in various rooms and they showed them various videos. They showed them videos of casual everyday interactions, and they showed another segment of them, videos of people being hurt, people being injured, people going through painful moments, whether physical or emotional. And they have these censored so that they can analyze their brain activity. Prior to putting them in these rooms, they asked these individuals, do you have any history of the following? Any history of being bullied, car accident, various types of, stressful mental or emotional or physical past events. What they notice after analyzing the findings of the censors is that people that have had similar past events, let's say you as a young child, you were bullied. You were very soft-spoken, you were kind-hearted, and some people didn't like that, and so they would prey on you. When you saw that video of someone being bullied, your empathy was activated. That region in the brain, in the prefrontal cortex, which is associated with empathy, was more activated than others that did not have that past previous experience. And in fact, they noticed there's two types of empathy. One is called cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy is understanding rationally that someone else is going through pain and being able to logically understand what they must be going through. Then there's what's called emotional empathy. It's not just simply logically knowing what they're going through. You can literally feel what they're going through. And the study found that the areas associated with seeing people who have gone through events similar to you, this was mainly active in regions associated with cognitive empathy. You can intellectually understand what they're going through, but not so much really feel it. In another experiment conducted by Stanford University, they brought students into a room and they gave them a VR, virtual reality headset. And the name of the game or the video that they were shown was Becoming Homeless. And it's basically an immersive experience of how just a regular, everyday Joe has a 9-to-5, has a family. Initially mental health declines and then just bad luck. One thing leads to another, this guy becomes homeless. And how you have to find places to live. People, the police, the authorities, they come and they scoot you off the sidewalk. You have to find somewhere else. You have to, find ways to secure your few belongings. And it's very immersive. They found that because of how immersive the VR experience is, it feels like you're literally going through this. These people showed more empathy towards the homeless, and they found more willingness, in support of homeless causes than people that were just shown a regular video, a regular movie or documentary about the homeless. You could almost feel like you're going through it. So the more the experience hits home, the more you have that feeling of empathy. But the greatest way to develop that emotional empathy is to go through that experience yourself. One way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to set equity and equality within our societies is we have to help each other out. That's the system of zakat. That's the system of the Islamic duties and huquq, the redistribution of wealth. But one way we really are motivated towards social justice emotionally is if we understand what those who are less privileged than us are going through. And that is one reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated fasting upon us. So that when you yourself, you taste that hunger, you know what it's like to go hungry, you're more emotionally motivated, as well as intellectually motivated, to go and help those that are in need. My dear brothers and sisters, hunger is not just something of the old. According to the World Health Organization, over 720 million people face hunger now in 2026. That's a huge number. 720 million? This is with all our technological advances, all the food surplus that we have. Back in ancient times, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, the food surplus was 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Meaning for every person involved in the cultivation of food, meaning a farmer, they could produce enough food to feed 2 other people, or maybe in very developed societies at the time, 3 other people. Therefore, if there was a good year, spring was early, you don't have any crazy snowstorms, you could feed 3 other people. So, if even 30% of the population is farmers, they can support everyone else. But some years, you have the not so good years. Not every year is in the green. Some years are in the red. And that gets a bit tricky. Therefore, you find masses of people starving. Now, in the United States, and I think maybe in the Western world, that ratio is closer to 1 to 300. If just one person engages in the cultivation of food and produce, they can feed 300 other people. So only a minority of people have to be employed in this profession, just because of how advanced our tools have gone. And yet you find, with all this advancement, with all this crazy surplus of food, 720 million people go hungry every single year. 2.3 billion people have moderate to severe food insecurity. What is food insecurity? You don't know if you're going to have anything on your plate tonight. See, one thing that eases us with Shahr Ramadan, even though you woke up very early, even though you might have forgotten to have suhoor last night, you're starving, but when you get back home, an hour later, there's going to be food on the table. My dear brothers and sisters, some of our brothers right now in Sudan, in other areas, they go to sleep not having had iftar, and they don't know if there will be iftar tomorrow as well. That's difficult. That's not easy. According to the World Health Organization, 150 million children. Now see, maybe if you're an adult, you can handle it. It's not easy when you feel your intestines squeezing against themselves. But 150 million children have stunted growth. They're not just going hungry. This is affecting them developmentally. This is affecting their brain growth, their body growth. Some of these young girls, they don't have natural processes that happen in, what a normal girl that grows up. Why? Lack of food. And can we tell Allah, Ya Allah, on the Day of Judgment, there's a lack of food on earth. We don't have the resources. We do not have the ability to feed. That's not true. According to the World Health Organization, it would take under $50 billion USD in order to solve world hunger. And in the United States, every single year, over $70 billion worth of food, fresh food, is thrown in the garbage bin every single year. And this is just one country. So we cannot claim to say that we do not have the resources. That, we tried, but we couldn't. But at least Allah Azza wa Jalla says, in order for you to be motivated to help those that are less privileged, you need to yourself go through that experience. Around a century and a half ago, one of our scholars who has written many books, As-Sayyid al-Shabastari, he lived in Iran, and he lived at a time when there was a drought. There wasn't enough food. Every single day, if you wanted to eat, not starve, you would have to go and stand in line at the baker, a very long line, just to receive 1 or 2 loaves of bread. That was the rationing for every single citizen. Forget meat, forget chicken, forget sweets, forget sugar, forget all that stuff. Not too long ago, in my grandfather's era, when he was young, sugar was still considered a luxury. If you wanted to gift your neighbor something really fancy, you would gift them a bag of sugar. Back in those days, the average American family in the early 20th century would consume a pound of sugar every year. Now, on average, we consume a pound of sugar every single week. So back then, sugar was a luxury. So he would wait in line, this long line, and sometimes, you're at the end of the line, it's your turn, there's no more food. There's literally no more flour. So one day he was waiting in line, he got his 2 loaves of bread, he's on his way home, and by the way, he's a recently married individual, so 2 loaves of bread, one for him, one for his wife. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but at least, fills the stomach. He sees an old lady pass by him. She tells him, "Look, my son, I'm very old. I was late, for the line, for the rationing of the bread. And, you're young, but I'm old. Our bodies are different, and our tolerances are different. Would you be so kind as to give me, these 2 loaves of bread for me and my kids?" He said, on the one hand, I'm recently married. Obviously, I have an obligation towards my family, my wife. And if I don't have this, it's going to go till tomorrow. We're going to spend the night starving. But he says, I couldn't say no. This old lady, clearly, maybe her husband has passed away, he's not around, and she has kids. So I decided for the sake of Allah, to give her these 2 loaves of bread. My dear brothers and sisters, it's only in the past 3 or maybe 4, or depending on the country that you've lived, maximum 6 generations that we're living the type of lifestyle that we have now. For most of human history, most of my ancestors and your ancestors, this was their daily struggle. Food was not easy to procure, to buy. I saw a documentary not too long ago about mud pancakes in Haiti. Haiti, the island nearby, Central America. And so what are mud pancakes? We've all heard of pancakes. There's Nutella pancakes and cinnamon pancakes and all that stuff, strawberries pancakes. So for a while, they had undergone severe drought, and they had their own political circumstances. So kids in impoverished areas, they would go and buy a bag of flour. Then they'd go in the middle of the playground of their school. And what is their playground? It's basically just, grass and dirt. It's no swings or, anything fancy, slides. They pour the flour in a big bottle of water. They mix it. Then they pour that batch on the ground, straight onto dirt. Then they'll mix that. They'll take that concoction, which is basically dirt and water and flour. They'll bake that, then they'll eat that. That's just their food. This is not centuries ago. I'm not talking generations ago. This is like 10 years ago. So the kids are so happy, they're eating their mud pancakes. They call the pancakes. But I mean, what is this? This is food fit for children that are growing, that need all the vitamins and minerals that any normal person would need to grow. But this is just how people used to live. So this Sayyid al-Shabastari, he goes home, and his wife is understanding. He explains the scenario. He says, "Before I went to sleep, someone came and knocked at my door. I opened it. He says, it's my neighbor, who's also a baker. And he says, I saw you going back home today without food. And I figured something must have happened. Either you didn't get your share of food, or you must have given it away. And knowing who the type of person that you are, he's known to have good akhlaq. It must have been the second. So he says, because I'm a baker, I hid 2 loaves of bread after everyone else that needed the rationing got them, and I brought them here for you. And until the end of that drought, however long it lasted, a couple of weeks maybe, this baker would come every single day and offer that bread to this family. So subhanAllah, that same night and every night afterwards, Allah had rewarded them. But think of it like this. He must have, the Sayyid, considered himself so privileged and so blessed to receive 2 loaves of bread. That was considered a blessing. You would thank Allah Azza wa Jal for this. Now imagine, my dear brothers and sisters, you're invited by a neighbor, a fellow brother or sister in the community over iftar, and they bring 2 loaves of bread. What would your reaction be? Some of us, we'd be insulted. 2 loaves of bread? This is my iftar? Know that there would be people back then that would kill to have this iftar. Forget back then. There are people today, here in February, that would kill to have an iftar like this. We have to be more grateful, my dear brothers and sisters. We have to look at ourselves and be so immensely grateful, because all our souls are created by Allah Azza wa Jal. Yes, maybe our skin has different colors, different shades. We speak different tongues, but our souls are all the same. My soul could have been born somewhere else. Who's to say that I was destined to be born in Michigan? I was destined to be born in this area in Canada. I could have been born in an area where having 2 loaves of bread would have been an absolute privilege. If you look at history, the Irish famine from 1845 to 1849, because of the system of colonialism that the UK, that England had set in place, where they had to grow all their produce and export it for profit, all that they had left was potatoes. As soon as a simple fungus came and infected all those potatoes, the largest famine in Irish history happened. 1 million people died. Allahu Akbar. 1 million? Imagine past couple weeks, all you've had are potatoes. This is your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. But they were grateful. That's their life. They work hard and they're grateful for what they had. But then because of that evil system of colonialism, they even lost that. 1 million lives perished. Do we understand the privilege that we're in? Sometimes in order to understand how lucky we are, Allah has to, twist our ears a little bit. That way, we can really come to understand the blessings and privilege that we have. If you search up colonial India, a really, painful image will come up. It's an old man who should be at his old age, sitting comfortably on his bed, on his couch, with his family, with his kids and grandkids serving him and his wife, the grandma. That's how we imagine a happy family to be, right? It's an old man sitting on the street because he's homeless, because of this incredible system of inequality forced upon them by the British. And of course, they had their own local customs too. But because of colonialism, and he's sitting on a chair with a stick in his hand, a knife in the other, and there's a body in front of him. If you look at the picture, he looks as thin as a match. Like I don't know how much he weighs, maybe 70 pounds. He's an old man. He's so thin, you can see his ribs. And there, by his feet, lays a woman who is his wife, who's even thinner than him. She looks like she's on the cusp of death. Why is he carrying a knife in his hand? This was at a time when there was so much starvation that people were resorting to cannibalism. Allahu Akbar. Allah Azza wa Jal must have so much patience to see this and to be patient and to wait so that these people who are in charge of these heinous deeds reap their punishment. Starvation was so rampant, people were eating each other. So this guy, poor guy, was standing with a knife protecting his wife. What kind of monstrosity is this? But Islam says, I have another system. Not a system where we exploit one another. Not a system where for my benefit I make everyone else suffer. I have a system where we all live in equity. Where each person gets their fair share and their fair dues. In order to instill this value and make it an innate virtue of every single believer, part of the reason why we fast is so that we can understand what it's like to have less. The second reason, my dear brothers and sisters, why Allah Azza wa Jal has mandated fasting upon us, it's mentioned in the verse that I mentioned early on in the lecture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting has been mandated upon you the same way it's been mandated upon those before you. There is fasting within the Jewish faith. There is fasting within the Christian faith. It might look different, but at its heart, it's similar. And all those who believed who came before Muslims. Lest that you may have taqwa, God consciousness. My dear brothers and sisters, all of our a'mal and all of our ibadat, whether that's prayer, our 5 daily prayers, whether that's hajj, whether that's umrah, whether that's i'tikaf, whether that's giving our zakat, each of these has its own goals. But the goal of all these worship as a whole is to increase our piety. is for us to nurture taqwa within our souls, to nurture God consciousness as that prime virtue. Taqwa should be the goal of every believer, every believing man, and every believing woman. Taqwa. Having that love and that fear of Allah instilled in our hearts. You know, in one of our dua, the Imam, peace be upon him, he describes it. He says, to have taqwa is you look at Allah, haybatus sultan. You look at Allah with the aura of a grand emperor, for there is no emperor like the creator of the universe. But at the same time, knowing that this person, this entity loves you more than a loving father or a loving mother would. It's having that balance, right? That balance between love and fear. Fear of offending him, but love of his worship. Taqwa is the goal of our fasting. Why do we read the Quran? To connect with Allah Azza wa Jal so that we instill this value of piety. There was a family, their system was that they had agreed upon themselves, the two parents, the children, the grandchildren, that there is not 1 hour inside the house that the Quran is not being recited. So what they did is they would take shifts. You know, from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m., one person would be awake reciting the Quran. Everyone else would sleep. At 2 a.m., this person would go to sleep. Someone else would wake up. 2 to 6 a.m., that person would recite Quran. And then so on, so forth, 2 or 4 hour shifts. Throughout the entire day, this family was reciting Quran. Imagine the blessings that are accompanied to that household. According to one narration attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says that the house in which Quran is constantly recited, يُؤْتِ فِيهَا الْخَيْرِ كَثِيرًا. Abundant blessings will be imbued within this house. You want blessings in your life? You want to enjoy your life? You want your rizq to increase? You want to have a long life? You want to have beautiful family connections? You want dhurriya salihah, a righteous lineage? Constantly recite the Quran. And part of the blessings of Shahr Ramadan is to give us this platform by which we further increase our interaction with the Holy Quran. We open the Holy Quran, we read, we ponder the words of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's narrated that Sheikh Abbas Al-Qummi, and if you haven't heard of his name, Sheikh Abbas Al-Qummi, you've definitely heard of the book that he's authored, Mafatih al-Jinan. Every family, in addition to Quran and perhaps Nahj al-Balagha, usually has a copy of Mafatih al-Jinan. What a blessed book, and what an honor that Allah has bestowed upon him, that almost every single Muslim family has this book of his. Sheikh Abbas Al-Qummi authored a book. He gleaned from the ahadith, from the narrations, all the various dua and all the various mustahab a'mal, actions throughout the year. You know, Ramadan day 1, these are the mustahab actions, mustahab prayers. Sha'ban day 1, end of Sha'ban, beginning of Shawwal, Muharram. He gleaned all this into one book. He went to the publisher to have this published, and the publisher said, yes, a few days, and inshallah the book will be ready for publication. He comes the next day and he says, wait a second, give me back my book. I just need to tweak it a little bit. He says, sure. He gives him the book. He waits the next day, the sheikh doesn't come. 2 days later, sheikh is still not here. It's been a week. You know, he's wondering, you know, what are the final tweaks that he's doing? So it's taken a full week. He waits a month, 2 months, a whole year passes by when the sheikh visits him again. He says, Sheikh, where have you been? I've been waiting a year. The sheikh said, I thought to myself, you know, the Quran commands us, don't preach what you don't practice. He said, I thought to myself, every one of these a'mal that I mentioned in my book, did I do them? He's like, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't for sure say that I did every single one of the a'mal that I wrote in my own book. And I said, you know, that can't be the case. If I tell people and I enjoin people to do these good a'mal, it's only hypocritical if I don't do them myself. So he says, I took the book from you and I made sure the following year, every single thing written in this book, I would do it myself. Every dua, I would recite it at its time. Every mustahab prayer, I would pray it. Every a'mal, I would do it. Every mustahab sadaqah on a given day, I would offer it. And this perhaps might be why this is such a blessed book. Why this book has filled every corner of the globe. It really is a blessed book. And the Shaykh himself has the honor of being buried by the shrine of Amir al-Mu'minin, peace be upon him. What a beautiful resting place. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But my dear brothers and sisters, in order for us to engage in great a'mal, to increase our God consciousness, do we have to be scholars and go to Najaf or Qom and dedicate our time to studying? No. If you look at Islam, the early companions of Rasulullah and the companions of the Imams, many of the greatest companions that had the highest ranks, they had an average basically what we would now call average 9 to 5. Maytham al-Tammar, the man who was known for his honest tongue, for his trustworthy character, one of the close companions of Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'minin. He was a Tammar. He would basically go, climb palm trees, collect them, come to the market and sell them. But he had what an honorable rank. Muhammad ibn Muslim, he was a flour seller, flour for bread. He would collect that, come to the market, and sell flowers. One of our great companions, Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Asadi, also known as Uthman as-Samman. Who's Uthman? Uthman is the first of the Nuwab. He's the first direct representative of Imam al-Hujjah ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. This man had such character, such taqwa, such akhlaq that the Imam directly appointed him. Now in modern days, when we say the maraji', the scholars, they're the representatives of the Imam, when you ask them what that means, they'll say this is general niyaba. This is general representation. Of course, the Imam has not directed anyone to be their specific envoy. But this was the first of 4 direct representatives of the Imam. The Imam is in the minor occultation. He is the man the Imam relies on to deliver his messages. What an honorable man. Was he a scholar? No. He was Samman. He was an oil seller. He would go sell cooking oil. That was his job and that was his trade. And his son, who was the second direct representative, continued that trade. He wasn't a scholar either. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they won't learn and continue their journey in knowledge, but that was their trade, just selling cooking oil. And in fact, if you read history, it's funny how he utilized his trade and profession to help further his causes. Sometimes if he had to deliver letters to followers of the Imam or to the Imam or deliver sums of money to the Imam, he would hide it in the barrels of oil that he would normally use to cook or to sell cooking oil. So he had a very basic, profession, but he made the most out of it. The reason we do this ibadah, the reason we worship Allah Azza wa Jal, my dear brothers and sisters, is to increase this piety and God consciousness. But behind every great action, if you want to start the Shahr Ramadan bi'idhnillah ta'ala with great ibadah, great worship, real sincerity in your worship, every action needs behind it interchange. In order for our outer reality to reflect these immense values that Islam has given us, there needs to be first a change from within. If we can make that change from within, that will reflect into our actions and we will see the results that we want, inshallah, which is to be amongst the salihin. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us all amongst the salihin. Therefore, we have to strive for inner change. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, لا يغير الله قوما حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. Allah Azza wa Jal will not change a community until they decide to make a change amongst themselves. Until they change their innermost self. Yes, the madad al-ilahi, divine guidance is always available. You ask and inshallah Allah will offer it to you. But for you to be able to be a receptacle of divine mercy, we have to first work on ourselves. To qualify for the spiritual Olympics, to qualify for the spiritual marathon, we have to start training. Yes, We train our muscles for the marathon. We train our muscles for the Olympics. We have to train our spiritual muscles for the spiritual Olympics. That change comes from within. Inner energy is needed in order for that to manifest into positive action. Part of the hikmah of ibadat, of worship, of recitation of the Holy Quran, of waking up alone at night and reciting Salatul Layl, is that these ibadat give you that inner energy. Sometimes people come up to our scholars and they say, I don't have the energy to do worship. I don't feel it. I don't feel that connection with Allah Azza wa Jal. Once, my dear brothers and sisters, we make that desire, it all starts with desire. We have to have a burning desire that I want this year during this Shahr Ramadan, not the next, not 2028, not 2030, this Shahr Ramadan, this month, starting tonight, I want to increase my relationship with Allah. Didn't He create me before I was dust? What does He have in store for me? What does He want from me? Where am I headed? Doesn't He have a message for me in the form of the Holy Quran? Let me read it. Let me see what Allah wants of me. If you have that burning desire and you start engaging in amal salih, then you will start to feel that inner energy. And that will reflect into positive action. And inshallah, the end goal is to have that feeling of God consciousness. There's a beautiful story of a man by the name of Al-Fudayl bin Ayyad. This man, he didn't have the most proper upbringing. So his profession was not a very noble one. He was a highway robber. Busy routes where people would do trade, people would go in caravans, they'd carry silk, they'd carry spices, other, valuable stuff, gold to do trade. He'd stand in the way and he'd basically steal. When these people were sleeping, he'd raid the caravan and steal whatever he could. This was his job, his day job, or I guess his night job. Al-Fudayl one day in his city, and it said that he used to live in Kufa, his eyes lands on a lady and he's infatuated with this lady. But knowing what his, akhlaq and his personality and, the kind of person that he is, he researched about her, found that she's a very noble lady, and him coming from not such a noble background, he knew that, if he were to come and to propose, this would never happen. So he had no hope. So Fudayl one day, being a highway robber, he transgresses upon people's rights, people's huquq, people's property all the time. So this, it's salad for him. Transgressing people's rights is nothing foreign to him. So one night he's climbing the wall of her house in order to go and violate her rights. Kind of a criminal this is. He's climbing the walls. He's about to descend, and he can see her from the roof. When he hears a neighbor of that lady, he's up late at night reciting Quran in his salah. Just look at the dichotomy. This man is up late at night. He's about to commit a crime, a heinous crime, and that neighbor is up at night reciting Quran. And he hears the following verses. He hears him say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alam ya'ni lilladhina amanu. Is it not time for those who have believed an yakhsha'a qulubuhum li dhikrillah, that their hearts are humbled before the dhikr of God, the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal. He says it felt like a lightning bolt. Something came and shocked me. He says, I stood there for a minute. I was really just reevaluating my life. Like, what am I doing? What got me here? How can I change? Sometimes, my dear brothers and sisters, we feel so stuck, we feel like we can't move. We feel literally paralyzed. What do we do? What do we do when we're so paralyzed we can barely breathe? The Quran says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. If you have taqwa of God, faith in God, Allah will eventually aid you. So he says, yes, Bala Rabbah, yes, my God, it is time. I'm not going to wait another Shahr Ramadan. I'm not going to say, you know what, maybe after Eid, maybe Balkit Ramadan finishes, Muharram comes, and then I'll be a good person. I'll quit my old ways. I'll quit my old habits. He says, no. Right now, this second, today. He climbs down that wall outside. He goes home and he says, I am no longer the old Fudayl. I have made a commitment stronger than iron that I will be a new Fudayl. Fudayl 2.0, the new update. Fudayl left his old ways. He stopped robbing. He stopped committing haram. He stopped engaging in all this transgression of rights. He found a new proper career, and it said he became a scholar. He dedicated the rest of his nights of his life to ibadah and to worship. My dear brothers and sisters, if we live, let's say I take myself as a case study. If I want to live a natural life, how much longer do I have? I mean, maybe at most, if nothing happens. Inshallah, we survive the snowstorm tomorrow. 50 years? Maybe, with all the technological advancements, 60 years. Inshallah, we can all live thorough and satisfying lives. But at the end of the day, 60 years, am I willing to give up the love of Allah Azza wa Jal for 60 years? Am I willing to give up that which is noble and that which is good for 60 years? Am I willing to give up that akhirah which never ends? That akhirah which before I even am able to vocalize the kinds of food and the kinds of pleasures that I want, Allah gives it to me. And for how many years? 10, 20, 50 million, billion, gazillion, no matter what number you can bring. Google, apparently Google's a number. What number you bring me, Allah will make you enjoy that heaven more. I give all that up for 50 years, 60 years. Is it worth it? Thus, my dear brothers and sisters, we start tonight. Don't say tomorrow. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Don't say when Ramadan ends, next Ramadan, I'll quit this habit next year. No, tonight, my dear brothers and sisters. Ramadan is such a blessing. Ramadan has so much ibadah infused within it. So many opportunities. Open Mafatih al-Junan. Every single night and day of Shahr Ramadan, there's a specific prayer. There's a specific dua, a specific a'mal. This is a month that inshallah will be the catalyst for our spiritual growth. The same way you see that cocoon, it breaks and a nice little caterpillar emerges, and then it, transforms into that beautiful, what do you call it? Butterfly? I was going to say spider, but that didn't seem right. In the same manner, we're all still in our cocoons. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this Ramadan, starting tonight, will be that catalyst whereby we break free from our cocoons. We are headed, inshallah, towards a brighter future, a future where we have that powerful taqwa of Allah such that we can feel it in our hearts. God consciousness is so instilled in our hearts, in our days, infused in our lives, that inshallah we will live and we will die upon the taqwa of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to invest the most into this Shahr Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reconnect with Him and to reconnect with the Quran on deeper levels. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always continue guiding us with His ilm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala imbue our blessed Shahr Ramadan with blessings, with iftar, with all the blessings that inshallah we hope to repay to our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters across the world. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyina Muhammad wa ala ali baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. For the sake of our marhumeen, those who have departed, for the sake of those who have instituted this majlis, for their marhumeen, for their families, and for all the marhumeen and families of our community members, let us all recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. After that, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.